So this is 23rd of February, Monday 2026, and here is the Hindu editorial, which is issued by S.Y. Qureshi sir. The title of this editorial is Parliament's Historic Law and Extended Wait for Women. Okay, so S.Y. Qureshi sir is a former Chief Election Commissioner of India and the author of An Undocumented Wonder, The Making of the Great Indian Election. So let us try to understand this particular editorial. Okay, so let me read out. Here is he starts with when Parliament passed the Women's Reservation Act in September 2023, millions of Indian women believed that their moment had finally arrived. One third of Lok Sabha and state assembly seats would be reserved for them. The legislation was hailed as a historic victory for gender justice, ending decades of parliamentary stalemate. But the act contains a clause that changes everything. Reservation will begin only after the first census taken after the year 2026 and the subsequent delimitation of constituencies. Thus, on the Act's own terms, implementation in 2029 is constitutionally impossible. This is not a political prediction, it is a legal and logistical certainty. The next general election will be held in 2029 before the constitutional prerequisites can be completed. Unless Parliament amends the constitution again, Indian women cannot exercise their guaranteed representation until at least 2034. The constitution roadblock. The timeline is unforgiving. The timeline is unforgiving. The act mandates the act mandates two sequential steps. First, a national census, and second, a delimitation exercise based on that census data. Both are constitutionally required, neither can be bypassed. The next census is scheduled for 2027. After enumeration, the data must be verified, compiled, and officially published, a process that historically has taken between 12 to 18 months. Okay, so what he is trying to say that there are two major problem or major hurdles in giving reservation to women in Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, which is around 1/3. Okay, 1/3 of the total seats. These are two. First is the census, which is scheduled for that is the that is the national census now, which is scheduled in 2027, and a delimitation exercise based on that census. Okay, because of the next census, which is scheduled for 2027, after enumeration, the data must be verified, compiled, and officially a process that historically has taken between 12 to 18 months. Okay, so from 2027, it is going to take around 1 year to 1.5 year to verify, compile, and officially publish these data of the census. Okay, so 2029 will come only after then in 2029 you have election. Okay, only after official publication can be the president of India constitute a delimitation commission under Article 82. Okay, so who constitute the delimitation commission? So it is the president under Article 82 who constitute a delimitation commission. That commission then faces an unprecedented task. He is drawing 543 parliamentary constituency and over 4,000 state assembly constituency. As this writer examined in these pages recently, the commission must balance population distribution, administrative boundaries, geographic compactness, community representation, and the creation of reserve constituency for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and now women. India has constituted four delimitation commissions since independence. Let me check the color. Change the color. Okay. So India has constituted four delimitation commissions since independence. Not one completed its work in fewer than 3 years. Okay. So this is the delimitation commission, which work has is expected to take around more than 3 years this time. The most recent, established in 2002, took 6 years, and it was an exercise which only led to internal boundaries without reallocating seats among states. The next commission will be far more complex, reallocating seats among states for the first time since 1976 while implementing women's reservations simultaneously. Even on the most optimistic timeline, the census completed in 2027, and data published by early 2029. The commission working with unusual speed delimitation cannot conclude before 2032 or 2020, 2033. But these days, anything is possible. Without a new constitutional amendment, removing the census delimitation linkage women's reservation cannot be implemented in 2029. Was this delay accidental or by design? The political arithmetic provides the answer. If reservation was implemented immediately within the existing 543 seats Lok Sabha, 181 constituencies would become women only. If reservation was implemented immediately within the existing 553 Lok Sabha seats, 181 constituencies would become women only, displacing an equal number of male incumbents overnight. No political party wanted to bear that electoral cost. The solution was elegant in its political logic: tie reservation to delimitation. After the 2027 census, when constituencies are redrawn, the total number of Lok Sabha is expected to increase substantially, possibly to around 800, perhaps even 888. With an enlarged house, one third of seats can be reserved for women without displacing current members of the parliament. The political pain is absorbed by expansion rather than replacement. This explains the mechanism. It does not justify the consequence. Another decade-long delay for half of India's population. A history of betting. Indian women have already waited several years for legislation. The first women reservation bill was introduced in 1996. It was debated, amended, reintroduced, and blocked repeatedly. The bill lapsed with successive Lok Sabhas. It passed the Rajya Sabha in 2010 but never came to vote in the Lok Sabha. The 2023 Act was supposed to in wait. Instead, it has extended it. If delimitation is completed in 2032 to 33, reservation will apply only from 2030 for general election. Women who celebrated the Act's passage in 2023 will wait through another full election cycle before they can contest a single reserve seats. By tying women's representation to delimitation, the Act has entangled gender justice with India's most divisive demographic issue, the north-south seat distribution imbalance. When delimitation occurs, states with faster population growth will demand significantly more parliamentary seats. States that invested in population control, sorry, states that invested in population control will see their proportional representation decline. This tension is precisely why delimitation was frozen in 1976 and extended in 2001. By linking women's reservation to this unresolved federal arithmetic, Parliament has placed women's rights hostage to a debate that has paralyzed consensus for a half century. This deadlock could further delay delimitation and with it women's reservation. Why should half of India's citizens wait for an exercise that has nothing to do with gender equality? The constitution timeline is not the only problem. The act leaves critical design questions unanswered. First, why does reservation exclude the Rajya Sabha and state legislative councils? The act applies only to directly elected lower houses, and second, the Act provides no sub-reservation for other backward classes, OBC women, even though scheduled caste, scheduled tribes women receive proportional sub-quotas. OBC women constitute nearly 40% of India's female population. It means that 40% of India's female population is OBC. Third, the act mandates that the reserve constituencies will rotate after each general election, but offers no operational clarity. Will women candidates shift constituency every 5 years? How will rotation work when delimitation itself reshuffles boundaries? These unanswered questions compound the implementation crisis. Without clear rules, political parties will exploit ambiguities, legal challenges will multiply, and women candidates will bear the cost. A straightforward solution. The constitution barrier is real but not inevitable. Parliament created it, Parliament can remove it. There is a no constitution necessity tying women's reservation to delimitation. Article 15, Clause 3 already empowers the state to make special provisions for women and children. Parliament can exercise that power again to enable immediate implementation. The solution is straightforward. Amend the constitution to permit reservation before delimitation, either by modestly expanding the Lok Sabha immediately or by applying reservation within current constitution for two election cycles. Alternatively, Parliament could expand the House incrementally, adding 180 seats a year marked exclusively for women before full delimitation concludes. This would deliver on the reservation promise while avoiding displacement of incumbents. None of these approaches is technically impossible. What is required is political will. The government must clarify its roadmap now. Will it delink reservation from delimitation through amendment? Will it expand the Lok Sabha preemptively? Will it freeze state-wise seat allocation to prevent the North-South debate from derailing women's representation? Parliament must also address the design gaps, extend reservation to upper houses, include OBC sub-reservation, publish clear rotation rules developed in consultation with women's organizations and constitutional experts. Above all, Parliament must recognize one principle: representation delay is representation denied. India cannot afford another historic law that waits endlessly to take effect. If reservation is a constitutional promise and the 2023 Act declares that it is, then it must now become a constitutional reality. Not in 2034, and not after another election cycle. Now, India's women have waited long enough. So very beautiful article written by S.Y. Kureshi. He is talking about the women's reservation 2023, the problems associated with its implementation. Okay, what needs to be done? Okay, so all these things here are here. Okay, now we'll try to see India's leap from back office to global brain trust. Okay, this is the okay. Just a second. Protecting the freedom of speech of MPs. So PTT Acharya, former Secretary of the Secretary General of the Lok Sabha. So let us discuss this because PTT Acharya is one of the good writer on the political issues in India.